I am ready to cause some chaos. Hey guys, what's up? It's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you've come back, thank you so much. Today, you guys, I thought we would do something a little bit chaotic because, you know, we are getting to the end of the year and I've started making Bookmas content and all these things, but I started sort of like reflecting on, I guess, like this year and like what's sort of been significant in the bookish community, and I thought it would be really cute to do, not cute, but kind of fun, to do a video where I talk about the bookish things that I want to leave in 2024. And that's just like, I think we all need to to do these things, you know what I mean? So I have made a list, and I also asked you guys over on my Instagram to share some of the things that you guys want to leave in 2024. So what I'm going to do first is go through the list that I have, and then we'll go through all of your bookish things that you want to leave in 2024. So grab a drink and some snacks like me, and we are going to get right on into the video. Before we even get started, you guys, I just want to say, if anybody's been like following the Domingo Sabrina Carpenter thing, I cannot believe he was at her concert. I'm losing my mind. That's like one of the most iconic things to happen this year. I'm sorry. Okay guys, so like I was saying, this is basically going to be all of the things that I think as a community we probably need to stop doing, or even just like personally that I want to stop doing, or we should all stop doing, because we always need to self-reflect on what we're doing and whatnot. So you know what, I'm just gonna get right on into it. It's gonna be chaotic. I just want to preface this by saying everybody's opinions are valid. Everybody, you know, the things that I've written and some of the things that everyone else has written that they've sent through, everyone's opinions are valid. All of the things that they think are, you know, not great are valid. So let's be nice and kind to everybody in the comments. So the first one that I have here that I think we should be leaving behind in 2024 is quote spoilers. So when I say quote spoilers, I mean it's usually happening on TikTok and Bookstagram. Sometimes I see it on BookTube happening too, where, you know, people will use quotes in order to entice somebody to read a book. And I see it quite a lot, and that's great. And even I sometimes have like fallen prey to being like, oh yes, like I want to read that book. Like tell me. So yeah, people will be like talking about a book and they'll give a quote, and that is like, read this book because this quote, right? And that's great. The thing that I have a problem with this is people are giving away like major points in the book that are like the most climactic part, or like, you know, the highlight of the book. And then, you know, if you're seeing that on social media without even looking for it, and then when you go to read that book, you know, you read the quote and it's like, oh, like I knew that was coming. An example of this is Beach Read by Emily Henry. So I, this year, saw a lot of people talking about one quote in particular, and I won't say what that is because I don't want to spoil it for people, but there is a very like memorable quote that I think it's Gus is the main character in that, the male main character. He says something to January, and everywhere I saw, I'm talking Book Talk, BookTube and Bookstagram, people were using this quote to like be like, oh, this is why I read, like this is the best book ever because of this line. It was one line, okay? So I knew that that quote was like a thing without even like looking for, you know, quotes for this book or spoilers for this book. I'm reading the book, and when I got to that point in the book was going really well. When I got to that point in the book, so disappointing, so anticlimactic, because I knew that it was happening and I knew that it was coming. So it really ruined my reading experience. And then like I ended up giving a book that I might have given, you know, 4.5 stars, like a 3.75 or like a 4, because I felt like it was like, oh, that was so upsetting for me. Like I knew that was coming. It didn't hit as hard if I didn't know it was coming. You catch my drift? You catch my drift? The next one I have is a doozy, and I think I may get angry when I start talking about this, but the next thing that I think we need to leave behind in 2024 is giving name spoilers when we are talking about books or book series, okay? I'm not saying like, you know, if I were to hold up a book, let's say I'm holding up like Heartless by Elsie Silver, you know, I'm not saying this follows Cade and Willa. I'm not saying that that is a quote. That's not a spoiler for names, because that's just the names of the two main characters in that book, okay? What's happening, and I'm gonna give you a prime example, is a series like Throne of Glass, okay? So I'm not gonna say anything. I have only read the first 2 books in that series. I read it a few years ago, and I just recently, like a couple of months ago, started reading the first one again, okay? So I don't know anything about that series. I know who the characters are at that point in time. I don't know anything past that, okay? On TikTok, I see all the time people giving spoilers, and again, I'm not even looking for these spoilers. I'm a romance girl as well, right? And I will see these videos pop up on my For You page. I have seen so many spoilers about character names and what they do and what ends up happening and this, that, and the other. I know so much about Throne of Glass without even looking for it, and it's so sad because now I'm going to go into this series like not being very excited, totally like underwhelmed, because some people won't even put like spoiler alert, spoiler warning, like they'll just say what happens. And this is going to lead into another one that I want to talk about, which is using audiobook audios on TikTok. Another one where it's like, use the audiobooks, don't give away massive parts in the plot through the audiobook. And I'm going to use an example. ACOTAR. If you have read A Court of Thorns and Roses and you have read A Court of Wings and Ruin, it's book number 3. It's the like massive plot development book as well. It's very war heavy, whatnot. There is a scene at the end of that book that is very emotional, very full on, and very spoilery if you have not read the whole series. I cannot tell you guys, even in the last like couple of months, how many times I have been scrolling on TikTok and an audio clip will like play from the like that audiobook, the like the live what do they call it, like the like realistic audiobook where they have like multiple actors in there, right? The audio from the audiobook will play as soon as I scroll onto a video, like with a character screaming about another character, something happening to another character, and I'm like, as if you guys are using this and ruining people's reading experiences. Like they're not even asking for this and it's just coming up on their, you know, I just think it's so selfish as a reader to do that. Like by all means, before I wrap this section up, recommend your favorite books to people. Do not spoil such key plot points and ruin their reading experiences. It needs to stop, and it makes me so angry when I see those videos. Like it's so sad. It's really sad. I told you guys I was gonna get passionate about that one. Okay, the next one, I need to get a visual aid because I think it's hilarious. This is another one that makes me cackle and angry as well. When I see a video, okay, and I see this, I immediately scroll past it because I'm sorry. I know you're trying to just grab the views. I'm sorry, but it's like, we're all here to recommend books, right? Why are you doing this? And then you know what gets me? At the end of these ones. Jail. Like I'm being so for real. Why are you, the whole book, the whole thing going like this and then just slowly showing that? Why? Why are we doing that? And then on top of that, to stack it on, people will be like, here's the book, right? They'll be like, it's this trope and this trope and this trope and this trope, which I think is okay, and that's not spoiling, okay? So say you got a cowboy, you've got like single dad, nanny, grumpy sunshine, whatever. That's great. I will see these videos and then it will just end. And then in the comments, no one will know what the book is. And in the description, no title. And I'm going, so you're just like recommending a book with all these tropes and you won't tell anybody what it is? Absolutely jail. Like that needs to stop. Next up we have saying audiobooks aren't reading. So I'm just going to quickly preface this by saying that I'm not an audiobook girly because I just personally struggle with finding narrators. Just in my personal experience, I struggle to find narrators that don't give me like the ick or make me cringe out, okay? Primarily I read paperback or I read on my Kindle. I have listened to some audiobooks, okay? However, that still counts as reading. Okay, and I see so many people, you know, saying like, oh, you know, if you only listen to audiobooks, like you're not actually reading the book, you're just listening to the book. And I actually think that's quite sad because you're actually like being derogatory towards a group of people who actually may not be able to read a physical book. So I think it's really sad and really rude that I see a lot of people doing this because it's unfair. And you know, also like aside from that as well, you know, some people might work 9-to-5 jobs. They might not have time to read a physical book, or they might be, you know, at work all day. Sometimes they might like to listen to an audiobook on their commute, or whilst they're at their desk, they can listen to an audiobook. It's like you are reading a book, whether you listen to it or you look at it, like you're still consuming that book. So I think it's just like, we need to stop. And I see so many people doing it. Stop being mean to other people. Why can't we all be kind? You know what I mean? Next up I have forcing yourself to finish a book that you are not enjoying. So this is like something that I've put in place this year. I started DNFing books this year, which I didn't do last year, because truly, why are you like pushing through and finishing a book unless it's like your job to read and review said book? You have to get a review out for like certain books or whatnot. If you're reading for pleasure, which all of us are mostly doing, right? It's like if you're reading for pleasure and you are, you know, 100 pages in the book, halfway through the book, more than halfway through the book, and you feel like it's becoming a chore, if you're feeling like it's like a lot of work, you're not enjoying it, why are you doing that? Because that is usually like what leads people into reading slumps, is forcing themselves to finish a book that they are just not enjoying and that is not for them. So yeah, I started DNFing books this year because, like I said, I feel like if I try to push myself, I will fall into a reading slump, and that's like absolutely not. You know, I use this analogy of, you know, if you were watching a TV show, right? And say this show is like 10 seasons, which they just don't do anymore, which is really sad. You know, you're watching a TV show and it's 10 seasons and you're like in the first season, the second season, and you're just not enjoying it. Would you stick through and watch the entire series? Even a movie, right? Like if you're watching a movie and you're not enjoying it, would you watch the entire movie just because you want to see what happens? No, like it's your time, right? The same thing can translate to reading and with books. Like if you are not enjoying this and you're, you know, using your valuable time to go and to read a book and finish a book that you're not liking, like what's not clicking? I think also there might be a stigma around it that people are like, oh, I feel bad for not finishing the book, which, you know, that's so valid and that's okay. But at the same time, it's just a book at the end of the day. And if you're not enjoying it, it doesn't work for you. And that is okay. So the next one that I have is prioritizing quantity over quality. This is definitely in relation to reading goals. I think reading this year in particular has become like, I don't know, like a competition. And I don't know if it's because reading is becoming like a lot more mainstream and popular now, because it is literally, you know, like I said, social media, everything's at everyone's fingertips and people are, you know, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it's in their face, and a lot more people are reading now. And I think it's become like at this stage where, you know, we're setting reading goals, and even like, because I'm obviously quite active on TikTok, you know, at the end of the month, like I love getting to sit through and like watch all my friends like do their monthly reading wrap-ups. And there are a couple of book besties that I have and creators that I follow who actually consume like quite a few books per month. And I mean, like, you know, they're reading between like 15 to 30 books a month. So that's for a lot of people, that's quite substantial, right? And in the comments, I see some of the rudest people bashing these people, saying there's no way you're reading that many books a month, like that's just blah blah blah. And then there's the other side of it where it's like people be like, oh guys, like I only read like 2 books this month, I only read like 4 books this month. It's like, I don't get it, guys. Why has it become a competition about how much we read? And like if one person read more than the other, we're all different people. No 2 people are the same. Everybody has different lifestyles, have different reading styles, reading paces, you know, spare time, whatever. Everybody's life is different. You know what I mean? You cannot compare somebody who works a full-time job to someone who, you know, might be working part-time or, you know, is studying and has a bit more time on their hands. You cannot compare that and compare yourself to, you know, different people's reading. So I think like it's definitely become this year, people are like trying to get the numbers up of like how many books I read this year, rather than actually reading quality books. And I'm gonna give myself as an example. So far this year, I've read 81 books and my goal was 60. And I set my goal at 60 because I knew that that's just like what I would usually read, and I was supposed to be at university this year, but due to health reasons, I took a step back. And I said, okay, 60 is like, that's great. Like I'll probably reach 60. If I don't mind. But I've now read 80 because, you know, because this very luckily is my job, I do consume quite a few books per year. And there will be times when I am very lucky to read a really great book, and a book that is 5 stars and I love it. But most of the books this year that I've read have not been great. And I think that's just because I am consuming so many. And then becomes this question of, did I not enjoy this book because it wasn't for me? Or did I not enjoy this book because, you know, I might have been in a reading slump, or I have just been reading too many things that are similar. I think it's becoming like that, and it's definitely something that I want to prioritize next year, of actually like sitting down and reading books that I know I will enjoy, taking my time to enjoy a book rather than just trying to go, I need to make sure I've read at least 10 books this month to do a proper reading wrap up video. Like that's just not a way to enjoy reading, and you know, reading is for enjoyment at the end of the day. My camera just said, no girls, see you later. Now guys, we're gonna go into some of the ones that I got from your responses. So let me go on Instagram. This one's kind of funny, but I guess it's sort of towards like a publishing house, is a series not matching in height. That's something that I've seen obviously happening with publishing companies, and I'll give an example. So not only just like heights matching, I'm also talking about like the spines not matching. So there's been a few releases this year where this has happened, and it's become, I don't know if this is recent and maybe I've just been, you know, unaware of it happening. When a new book in a series has been released, for some reason they are selling it in the big size paperback rather than the standard size. Look, I know that that is done from the point of view to make more money for the publishing houses, because, you know, selling a book in the big size, people will want to buy it on release day, and then a couple of months later or a year later, they'll release it in the normal size paperback. So people will buy it again to match their sets, like to match the sets, which I think is so rude and is ruining reading. But you know, that's my opinion. It has happened a few times this year as well, where the spines are not matching in a series that is not even completed yet. Okay, so like I totally get, say for instance, right, I want to talk about the I haven't read this series yet, but Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. Okay, so those books, that series only just completed. I believe it's just a trilogy. If there's more coming, please let me know. So far the first 3 books in that series have been released, but you know what started happening? Halfway through that series, they started to change the covers of the books, right? So say for instance, if you started reading that book after the first 2 had been published and you bought the new covers, you cannot buy the matching one to your new covers until a year later. Okay, so I very graciously have been able to pick up all 3 in the same height and like design style, because I was, you know, making sure to buy them. I haven't read them yet. It's so unfair for people who want their books to look nice on their bookshelves and match. Another one is the Windy City series. The spine, for some reason, on Play Along, the font is like way bigger and it just doesn't match. And then it also just recently happened with the last book in the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. Hexed is in the giant paperback form, even though that series is not even completed yet. It is now. But you know, and every other one when it was traditionally published is just in your standard size paperback. So it really irks me, and I get that people are trying to make money, but at the same time I'm like, that was just so, it's a money grab, you know, at the end of the day. The next one that you guys had here was judging people for their taste in books. I totally agree with this. This sort of links in again to like fighting people in the comments for, you know, not liking a certain book or liking a certain book. I always say reading is so subjective. Like I've said a million times in this video, every single person is different. If I like a book and you didn't, that is so fine. If you like a book and I didn't, that is so fine. And I actually find it super intriguing, and I personally love to watch videos of people who liked a book that I didn't, or didn't like a book that I did, because I want to know why, and I want to know if it's something that I didn't see or that I did see. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's so interesting that we are all able to form our own opinions on books. So again, I think people like judging people, and the one that I see it happening with, and I'm not Colleen Hoover's biggest fan, but you know, it ends with us, right? People are so opinionated about Colleen Hoover and it ends with us, and I just see people in the comments section sometimes just going ham at people for going, if you like Colleen Hoover, you're not a real reader. How rude. Like, who are you to tell people what kind of reader they are? You know, stop judging people for liking something for themselves. If you didn't like a book, you just keep your opinions to yourself. Keep them to yourself. Oh my gosh, this is such a good one. Somebody has said, I think tagging authors in 3 or less stars should stop. This is such a good one. Let me get some water. Tagging authors in reviews lower than 3 stars. I even think tagging an author in a review that is lower than 4 stars should be stopping, because there's 2 sides to reviewing, right? Everybody is entitled to give a book whatever rating that they want to give that book, what they feel is right for that book. If you are writing a book review and you purposefully go out of your way to tag an author when it is not a great review, I think that is so hurtful, okay? There's a side of things where, like, if you read a book and you didn't like it, and say for instance you are an ARC reader, right? So some people are very fortunate and they are able to receive advanced reader copies, right, from authors, and sometimes, most of the times, this is from indie authors, and sometimes they will even ask you for feedback, okay? So if an author has asked you to do that, if you read their book and let's say for instance it's not great, there might be some grammatic errors, there might be, you know, pacing issues or plot holes, whatever. If an author has asked you to give constructive criticism or feedback on their book as an ARC reader, absolutely send it their way. That's wonderful. If you are reading a book that you have not been asked to give constructive criticism directly to the author, you should not be tagging them in their reviews because it's so hurtful. And I think, you know, most of us are not authors and do not know how much blood, sweat, and tears go into writing a book, right? Some people spend years and decades writing one perfect book, right? And like, of course, they might go on Goodreads and see that their books are getting like 2-star reviews, 3-star reviews. They won't be looking at them. Maybe they might, right? If an author, you know, goes onto their phone and sees, oh, someone's tagged me in a review, and it's negative, why do you want to do that? Why do you want them to see your negative review other than to be hurtful? It's not your job to send them that. By all means, you are more than welcome to put out a review that is, you know, your own opinion and that is, you know, lower than a 4-star, and that's not great. You're allowed to do that because you're allowed to tell other people that you didn't like that book. When you purposely go out of your way to tag an author in a negative review, it's so hurtful. And I'm going to give a very sad and real example. So recently, literally in the last couple of days, this has happened. I saw Lila Sage, God love her, right? She has just released Lost and Lassoed in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. Okay, it's book number 3. I saw on her Instagram stories a couple of days ago that she said that she has turned off all of her tags because she has been tagged in so many negative reviews and bad reviews. And I was just like, how sad and awful that a person has to turn off their tags. So people who even want to tag them in good reviews and positive things about their work can't even do so now because there are such a, you know, vast majority of people who go out of their way to tag them in negative reviews. It's so deceitful. It's so sad that people seriously want to do that to another person who's worked so hard to put something out there, and it really needs to stop. Like I said, I don't even tag authors in my reviews. Even when I'm on TikTok, when I'm on Instagram, I will only tag an author if I have been graciously sent an ARC or it's a 5-star review. I don't even tag authors in reviews that are lower than 5 stars because you never know how they're going to take that, okay? So I don't even go out of my way to do that. That's just me. Everyone's allowed to do what they want to do, but I just think like truly that's like my biggest one that needs to stop. I had another one that was comparing my bookish goals with others, and I think we sort of touched on that around the reading goals, like not comparing how many books you read with other people. The next one I have is kind of a funny one. It's buying the whole series before reading the first book. I also decided to stop doing this halfway through this year because I did it a lot, and because, you know, we do see so many recommendations come through on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, you know, I was definitely in the same sort of boat where like I'd see a whole series and I was like, I need to buy that whole series. I haven't even read the first book yet, but I need to. And an example I'm going to give you is the Magnolia Park series. So as you guys may have known a few months ago, you know, they were indie published with these beautiful covers, and then they were traditionally publishing them, and there was a stage where they said, we are no longer printing these are going out of print. So it became chaos, and every man and their dog was trying to get their hands on these. And in Australia, you guys, these books were selling for $33 each, which is very expensive, okay? But because I did not want to miss out, and I heard of everybody telling me that it's the best thing since sliced bread, I went and bought all, is it 5 books in this series? I bought all 5 books. That cost me 165 Australian dollars to buy that whole series, right? Before I'd even read the first one, because everybody said it was great and I didn't want to miss out. So eventually I sat down this year and I decided to read Miss Magnolia Parks, and I did not like it, and I'm allowed to not like it, okay? Because there's a trope in there that nobody discloses, when they're recommending, which sometimes good for you, but it just was not for me. Okay, and I read this book, I gave it a 2-star, and I said I will not be reading the rest of the series, because if this is the trajectory we're going on, I'm not here. And here I had wasted $165 on the entire series. Very luckily enough, I was able to give that to somebody through Facebook Marketplace, and they, I'm sure, will love the books. That's just another prime example where I was like, I have to stop. But what I've been really good at this year is there's 2 series in particular that I started, and I said I'm only gonna buy the rest if I like the first one. So Shatter Me, right? I had owned the first book in the Shatter Me series for years, right? The edges are brown. I had it sitting on my shelf. I read it in a readathon and I loved it. Immediately I was like, I'm going to the store and I'm buying all 10 books. And I said, hold on, Belle, let's take a pause. I said, go and buy the next 2 books. 10 books is a lot. I said, go and buy the next 2 books. If you have read 3 books in this series and you're loving it, then I'll let you go buy the rest. And that's what I did. Same with Caraval. I read the first book in the Caraval trilogy. I then went and bought Legendary and Finale because I was like, yes, I loved the first one. I'm going to read the next one. So I think also it just saves a lot of money for everybody too. It's bad. I know we all do it. I even did it with the Playing for Keeps up there. I haven't read any of them. And I own them all because I just have to have them, hey. But it stopped this year, I promise. The next one I have sort of ties into the rating, and it's feeling bad about rating books 3 or even 2 stars. You shouldn't. And like I said, like, I know it feels awful because, as I was touching on, you know, an author does work really hard to put a book out, but you're allowed to have an opinion. Do not tell the author your opinion and tag them in your opinion, but you're allowed to tell people or put on Goodreads or on Fable or wherever you know, post your review. You're allowed to rate a book 2 stars. You're allowed to rate a book whatever you feel like. And I even know sometimes as a reviewer and, like, you know, being, you know, on social media, sometimes I'll read a book that I know is so popular and like is 5 stars for a lot of people, and I'll read that and I go, why don't I feel the same? Like, why have I not rated this book 5 stars? And at first it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that it's like you're allowed to rate things however you feel. And you know, if a book is a DNF for you, if it's a 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, that's so okay. And it's just how it sits for you. It also helps you differentiate where that book sat in relation to other books that you might consume in that year. So I think it's fine. Stop, again, you're right. Stop feeling bad about giving low rankings. It's allowed. The final one is actually from one of my best friends in real life, Miss Bridie. Love you. This is recommending books just because they are new. So again, I think Miss Girl is sort of playing onto the idea that, again, because, you know, book reading has become very mainstream now, that, you know, a lot of people are, I don't want to be rude by saying this, but you know, there are a lot of people who do get paid to do book reviews, to promote books. And I know that a lot of people will push those books out because A, they're being paid to do so, or B, they're just new and they just want to like push them out, and they're forgetting about also some of the old goody ones. But I think what Bridie's referring to, sorry girl, I'm saying your name about a million times. What she's referring to is that people will just recommend a book because they are being paid to do so. And that's so sad because that is losing literally the authenticity and the genuine, like, how genuine you are as a reviewer. You also lose credibility, because if you are just like going to give a book 5 stars and tell everybody to read it just because it's new and like you got told to you're getting paid to do so, or you've been sent an arc or something like that, it really like also ruins your reputation as a reviewer, because people will maybe pick up those books or they'll just feel like you're so disingenuine. So I think, like, if you're recommending books on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, be authentic, be yourself. You love a certain amount of books, push those books out, you know. And also, can I just say, there's been a few books that I've read this year that are super popular that I did not like, and I have given reviews on them because it's true and genuine, okay? So an example that I will give is Daydream by Hannah Grace, okay? This was one of the highest like anticipated releases of this year, and a lot of people's eyes were out to see what people thought of this book. I could have said very easily, because I genuinely love Icebreaker and Wildfire. Wildfire is one of my favorite books ever. I could have just said on my platform, guys, Daydream is the best, so good, go and pick it up, it's new, like, go and get it. But I very proudly gave that book 2.5 stars, and I did a full proper in-depth review on my book talk talking about Daydream and why it didn't work for me. And you know what? People will think you're just so much more credible and so much more real if you give your honest opinions and thoughts on. I just wanted to quickly say, because I'm editing this right now, I think there was one part of Bridie's that I sort of missed, and it's that people are only recommending like new books, and I think sometimes people are too afraid to actually recommend books that maybe they read last year, year before, 10 years ago. And I think maybe what she's saying is like we should stop just recommending new books. We should recommend any and all books that we love, no matter what time we read them. So I think next year it's like definitely about don't follow the crowd, don't go with the sheep. Find your own niche, recommend the books that you love that work for you, and also speak out if you didn't like a book. Like that's so important. So thank you for that one, Bridie. Alrighty, you guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking through all the way to the end. If you did, you know I really, really appreciate it. What are some of the bookish things that you guys want to leave behind this year? Did I talk about them today? Are there any others? Please let me know. Put them in the comments because I'd love to chat about them with you guys. As always, if you aren't already, you are more than welcome to follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. I'll leave my handles on the screen and in the description. And if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel. And make sure you are hitting that notification bell. That way you're notified each time a brand new video goes up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a lovely day or a lovely night, and I will see you all next time. Bye.